Hey everyone, I hope you're doing well. I know it's a busy time. It's a busy time for me, and I'm going to do this really short video on something I discovered. I wasn't planning to make this, but it's something that helped me a lot. I'm currently studying for a class, and I needed to create some flashcards in Anki. And I was doing this manually, and then I happened to go online to look for some more automation, and I saw some med students describing their problems of trying to get information out of Apple Notes into Anki. So I thought there has to be an automated way to do this, and I discovered a path using Apple shortcuts to do it. Of course, the biggest headache is trying to do this manually, gathering all the questions and answers, creating the CSV file, uploading it, etc. So let me show you what I've done. So you can see here I have my Anki decks up here along with my Apple Notes, and I'm going to use that med school student's example. I'm not in med school, but I thought this would be a great example. And I have a particular note here. Let's open it up. And it's a note called the peripheral nervous system. It's a chapter out of the book. I actually scanned this out of an anatomy book. And of course, your notes wouldn't be this complex, but this basically takes all the information from that particular chapter and section. And we're going to take this and we're going to create Anki notes from it. So the key discovery here was that I could use Apple Intelligence and the ChatGPT model to create the Anki flashcards and the flashcard format, and then automatically create the desired format and load them into Anki automatically. So I'll go through this step by step at a high level. The first thing it does is try to find any note with the word Anki in it. So you get a list of notes with the word Anki, you put it in the title of your note, and then you select the one you want to convert to Anki notes. It's going to grab the body, it's going to ask you for the name of the Anki deck and how many flashcards you want. And then it's going to use the model to take that input and output in the proper format the list of questions and answers for the Anki flashcards. So let's just run the shortcut. I have the note open. You can see here I have the peripheral nervous system. I'm going to go ahead and add the word Anki to it. So I can pick that from the selection of notes that I want to convert. And you can see there's a lot of information since it's out of a textbook, but it should actually be able to parse through this and give me some interesting questions and answers. So let's do that. All right, I'll start it. You can see it comes up with a list of things I've been testing with Anki. You can see the one I just changed, the peripheral nervous system. So let's select that. Now, the first thing it's going to ask you is what is the name of the Anki deck? So I'll just call this PNS study. All right, the next one is going to ask you how many questions you want. So let's do a test first. Let's just do 5 questions. And now it's going to run the model. So the model's running right now. It's going to create these 5 questions and answers in the Anki format. I've added a few more things here. Now, the first thing it wants to ask you after it's done is, do you want to create a note with the Anki questions? This means it's going to create an Apple note with the question answer format so you can review it. It doesn't put it in the Anki deck or anything like that. It's just a way to review it. So let's do that first. And you can see now in the PNS study, it created a question, has a semicolon, has the answers. And I think if you do a shorter number of questions and answers, they actually get longer. The model tries to do that. But let's just review this. You can see it actually did a pretty good job, like which cranial nerves are purely sensory, what are their functions, and it gives an answer. So it's doing the right job here. All right, let's do a longer one here. I should talk a little bit about the end of the shortcut. So what it does after it creates the lists of questions and answers, it'll save it to a file, a text file for you to load into Anki manually if you want to. But I also created another model down here that formats that list into a JSON file, and then that file gets automatically uploaded to Anki using a shell script. So let's just do that. So I'll start it again. We'll pick the PNS. I'm going to call this Anatomy 190 PNS. All right. And we are going to do 30 questions and answers. All right, it's running the model now. So this does take longer if you're running a lot of questions and answers. We'll wait for that to finish. All right, now we don't want to create an Apple note. We want to continue on to the shell script. And it asks that question now. This is another question. Either you just save the file to a location, or you can actually just run the shell script and load it into Anki. So let's load it in. So it's right now the model is creating the JSON file. This might take a little bit of time as well. And then it's going to run the shell script. The shell script runs. Looks like it completed successfully. Let's go to our Anki decks. And there it is, Anatomy 190 PNS. I can open that up. I could actually study now. What are satellite cells and ganglia? Show answer. glial cells. I don't know my anatomy. Glial cells that surround neurons, cell bodies, and ganglia. Call that hard for me. What is a plexus? Network of fibers or vessels. So you can see it actually created the deck for me with those 30 questions. Fantastic, easy to use. Obviously, each time you run this, you're not going to get the exact same questions. That's one thing to call out. But it's a great way to get this in. You could probably create multiple iterations of this deck and then use those decks for study. So that's it. I can't tell you how useful I have found this for myself and my class. I've been able to create decks on the fly automatically. Very, very useful. A couple of final thoughts, though, that I want to call out. First, models might hallucinate, so you got to make sure that the questions and answers match the text. So always verify first in an Apple Note, in that example I showed, where you create the note. Go there and make sure that that matches exactly the same text. And you may want to put some actual text in the model to add to that. Another thing to call it is models may change over time. You never know where Apple Intelligence will change. ChatGPT models change. So this may not work in the future. You might have to do some tweaking. Another thing is large decks take minutes to run. So if you're running 30, 40, 50 questions, it takes literally over a minute to do the model and then another minute to generate the JSON to send to the Anki API. And then if you find shell scripts too complex to run, then you can just create the file. You don't have to create the shell script. It always creates the file to disk, and then you can just take that file, which is just a text file, and load it into Anki directly manually. Obviously, shell scripts are not going to work on iOS, so if you're using it on a device like an iPad or an iPhone, you're going to have to make sure to say no to the step to actually automate loading it into Anki, and you're going to have to run that manually. Also, in the shortcut, make sure you modify the folder location on where the deck is going to get saved. I have set it up. It's a fixed location right now, so you need to change that. I'm going to provide everything, the shortcut. I'll provide the share in the description, and then also the shell script. I'll have an example of that for you. So I appreciate you watching this on-the-fly video. As always, if you haven't subscribed, please do. It really helps the channel. I'm trying to create more content as I go along. And I really hope you find this useful. So have a great day, everyone. Take care.